R.I.P. King Vaughn. And before we even get into this, I need you to stop whatever you're doing right now. Put the phone down. Close the other tabs. Because what I'm about to tell you, this isn't just another King Vaughn story. This isn't just another R.I.P. Vaughn post. This is the story that Vaughn's own family tried to bury. The story that nobody, and I mean nobody, was supposed to find out about. You think you know what happened the night King Vaughn died? You think it was just some random beef outside a hookah lounge in Atlanta? Nah. What if I told you that the real story starts way before that parking lot? Way before Quando Rondo. Way before any of that. What if the real story starts inside Vaughn's own family? Because right now, as we speak, Vaughn's sister has gone viral for dropping what she's calling a family secret. And Vaughn's mother? The woman who raised him through Parkway Gardens, through every loss, every struggle? She has finally had enough. She's breaking her silence. And what she said will change everything you thought you knew. Stay with me. This is just the beginning. All right. Let's go back. Let's go all the way back to where this story really begins. Because if you think this is just about one night in Atlanta, you're not ready for what's actually coming. King Vaughn. Vaughn Daquan Bennett. Born August 9, 1994, in the Parkway Gardens neighborhood of Chicago, Illinois, one of the most dangerous housing projects in the entire United States. They called it O Block. And if you know anything about O Block, you know that growing up there wasn't just hard, it was survival. Every single day was a test. Every single morning you woke up, you thanked God you made it through the night. That was the reality Vaughn grew up in. That was the world that shaped him, broke him, and built him back up at the same time. And through all of that, through the violence, through the loss, through the streets taking people he loved one by one, there was one constant in Vaughn's life. One person who never left. One person who held that family together with her bare hands when everything around them was falling apart. His mother, Tesa Bennett. Now if you follow Vaughn's story at all, you know his mother was everything to him. She was the foundation. She was the reason he kept going. Every time Vaughn got on a track and talked about pain, about loyalty, about what it means to really love somebody, he was talking about what he learned from her. From watching her sacrifice. From watching her fight for her kids in a neighborhood that didn't give families a chance to breathe. So when Tesa Bennett decided to stay quiet after Vaughn's death, when she chose to grieve privately, away from the cameras, away from the drama, people respected that. Fans respected that. Because losing a child is something no parent should ever have to go through. And the way she carried herself through that loss was nothing short of remarkable. But here's the thing about silence. Silence has a limit. And when someone in your own family crosses a line, when someone who shares your blood decides to go on social media and start talking about things that were never supposed to leave the house, that silence breaks. And that's exactly what happened. Now let's talk about Vaughn's sister. For those of you who don't know, Vaughn had multiple siblings. He came from a big family, as most Chicago families are. And one of his sisters, who has been somewhat active on social media over the years since Vaughn's passing, recently made a series of posts, videos and comments that sent shockwaves through the internet. Within 48 hours, the clips were everywhere. Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, everybody was talking about it. The comment sections were on fire. Fan pages were reposting it nonstop. And the phrase that kept coming up over and over again in every single caption, every single repost, every single reaction video? Family secret. Now I'm not going to throw her name out there recklessly because this is a real family going through real pain. But what she allegedly said, what she allegedly revealed in those posts, was something that hit different. It wasn't just gossip. It wasn't just venting. According to people who saw the original posts before they were taken down, and trust me, they were taken down fast, she was making claims about what really happened the night Vaughn died. Claims about who knew what. Claims about who was where. Claims about decisions that were made that night that may have changed everything. And the internet? The internet lost its mind. Let's set the scene properly because I want you to understand the full weight of what we're dealing with here. November 6th, 2020. 3 a.m. in Atlanta, Georgia. Outside the Monaco Hookah Lounge. King Vaughn and his crew pull up. Quando Rondo and his crew are already there. Now, by all accounts, there was already tension in the air before anything physical happened. This wasn't a random run-in. Atlanta is a city where everybody moves through the same circles, the same clubs, the same spots, and when two Chicago and Louisiana artists with history show up at the same location at 3 in the morning, you already know the energy is off. Words were exchanged. Then it escalated. Then it went from words to hands. And then, gunshots. What happened in those minutes has been analyzed, debated, broken down frame by thousands of people online. The footage circulated. The names circulated. Lul Timothy Leaks was identified as the shooter. He was charged with felony murder. And then in 2023, in a move that shocked the entire hip-hop community, those charges were dismissed. Dismissed. Just like that. And for Vaughn's family, for his mother, for his siblings, for everyone who loved him, that dismissal wasn't just a legal outcome. It was a wound reopened. It was a reminder that the system they had always known to fail people like them had failed again. Had failed Vaughn. Had failed them. So imagine carrying all of that. Imagine burying your son, watching the man accused of killing him walk free, trying to keep your family together through grief that most people can't even comprehend. And then one day you wake up, open your phone, and you see that someone in your own family is on social media talking about secrets. Talking about that night. Talking about things that, from Tasha's perspective, had no business being on the internet. That's where this story really begins to get complicated. Now here's what sources close to the family. And I want to be clear, these are people who have spoken to individuals in Vaughn's inner circle, not official statements. Here's what they're saying went down behind closed doors. Apparently, in the weeks leading up to the viral posts, there had already been tension building within the family. Grief does that. Grief is not clean. Grief is not peaceful. When you lose someone as significant as Vaughn, someone who is not just a brother, not just a son, but the person who is actively changing the financial and emotional trajectory of an entire family, the pressure that comes after is immense. There's money involved. There's the question of who speaks for Vaughn now. Who represents him? Who has the right to tell his story? And according to people close to the situation, those questions had been causing friction for a while. It wasn't one argument. It wasn't one moment. It was a slow buildup of tension, of unspoken things, of old wounds mixed with new grief, and eventually, it found its way to the internet. The way things always do when families are in pain and people don't know how else to let it out. When the sisters' posts went viral, the reaction from the family, specifically from those closest to Tasha, was described as immediate and intense. Phone calls were made. Group chats went crazy. People were reaching out trying to find out what was real, what was exaggerated, what was taken out of context. Because that's the thing about viral moments. By the time the truth tries to catch up, the damage is already done. The narrative has already been written. People have already formed their opinions. And Tesa Bennett, a woman who had been one of the quietest, most private figures in this entire saga, had seen enough. People close to her say that when she finally saw the posts, when someone sat her down and showed her what was being said, what was being implied, her reaction was not anger. Not at first. It was something quieter than anger. Something deeper. It was the look, they said, of a woman who had already been through the absolute worst thing a mother can go through, and was now being asked to go through something else. To defend herself. To defend her son's memory. To step into the very public drama she had worked so hard to stay out of. But she did it. She made a decision that surprised even the people closest to her. Tesa Bennett decided to speak. Not to the media. Not to a major outlet. Not in a formal sit-down interview with cameras and lights and a journalist asking rehearsed questions. No. She spoke the way real people speak when they've had enough. Directly, personally, and with the full weight of a mother who has nothing left to lose because she has already lost the most important thing in her world. And what she said, who she said it to, and what was revealed in that conversation, is what we're going to get into right now. Because this is where the story stops being just about grief and starts being about truth. About loyalty. About what really happened in those final hours before the world lost King Vaughn forever. So let's pick up exactly where we left off. Because Tesa Bennett had made her decision. She was going to speak. And the person she chose to speak to, the person she trusted enough to have this conversation with, was someone close to the family. Not a blogger. Not a journalist. Someone who had been around Vaughn, around the family, for years. Someone who understood the culture, understood the streets, understood what it meant to carry a story like this with the kind of respect it deserved. And according to that person, according to what was shared after that conversation, the first thing Tesa said when she sat down was this. She said, "I've been quiet because I was trying to protect everybody. But I can't protect people who don't want to be protected." Let that sink in for a second. A mother who just lost her son, who has been sitting in silence, absorbing the pain, absorbing the public speculation, absorbing every conspiracy theory and every fake story and every out-of-context clip that has circulated since November 2020. And the reason she stayed quiet wasn't because she didn't have anything to say. It was because she was trying to protect her family. Even the members of her family who were now, in her eyes, making things worse. That right there tells you everything you need to know about Tesa Bennett as a woman and as a mother. But now she was done protecting. Let's talk about what the sister allegedly posted. Because this is the part that sent everything into overdrive. According to multiple people who screenshot the posts before they were deleted, and screenshots spread faster than the truth ever will, the sister made several very specific claims. And these claims weren't vague. They weren't just emotional venting. They were pointed. They were detailed. And they implied something that nobody in Vaughn's fanbase was prepared to hear. The first claim was about that night itself. She allegedly suggested that there were people in Vaughn's circle, people who were with him that night at Monaco, who knew that the situation was more dangerous than Vaughn realized. That there had been information, prior to that night, that should have changed the plan. That should have made them move differently. Stay in. Go somewhere else. Do anything other than pull up to that specific location at that specific time. Now whether that's true, whether that's grief talking, whether that's a sister trying to make sense of something that makes no sense, we don't know. But the internet didn't wait to find out. The second those screenshots spread, the theories started flying. Was someone in Vaughn's own crew supposed to warn him? Did somebody know something and say nothing? Was there a phone call that didn't get made? A text that got ignored? Fans were devastated. And they were angry. And they started tagging everybody. Every name connected to Vaughn that night started getting pulled into the conversation, whether they deserved it or not. The second claim was even more personal, even more explosive. According to the screenshots, the sister made implications about tension that had existed within the family even before Vaughn died. Tension about money. Tension about who Vaughn trusted. Tension about certain decisions that were being made around his career, around his finances, around his inner circle. Decisions that some family members allegedly felt they should have had more say in. Now this is where it gets complicated. Because when you're dealing with a young artist who goes from nothing to millions in a very short period of time, and then that artist is suddenly gone, the aftermath is never clean. There are lawyers involved. There are estates involved. There are royalties and deals and rights and 100 different moving pieces that suddenly become real and heavy and contested in ways that nobody wants to talk about publicly. And according to the sister's posts, some of those tensions had roots that went back further than most people realized. She wasn't just talking about what happened after Vaughn died. She was talking about things that were happening while he was still alive. Conversations that were had. Decisions that were made. Sides that were chosen. The family, she implied, was never as unified as it appeared on the outside. Now, let's bring Tesa back into this. Because when she heard what was being said, when she understood the full scope of what her daughter had posted and how it was being received, her response, according to the person she confided in, was not to go on the attack. It was actually the opposite. She was calm. Eerily calm, they said. The kind of calm that comes not from peace, but from a woman who has been through so much that she has simply run out of the energy to be shocked. She said something along the lines of, "People are going to believe what they want to believe. I can't stop that. But I'm not going to let my son's name be dragged through something that isn't the full story." And that right there, "not the full story," became the phrase that people close to the family kept coming back to. because what it implied was significant. It implied that yes, there were things happening beneath the surface. Yes, there were tensions. Yes, there were conversations and decisions and dynamics that the public didn't know about. But what the sister posted, the way she framed it, the way it was being interpreted online, that wasn't the complete picture. That was one piece of a much larger, much more complicated truth. And Tesa felt that presenting one piece without the rest was not just unfair, it was dangerous. Dangerous to Vaughn's legacy. Dangerous to the family. Dangerous to people who were still dealing with very real consequences from everything that happened that night. Now here's where sources say the conversation got really emotional. Because at some point, talking about the night Vaughn died stopped being abstract. Stopped being about posts and screenshots and public perception. It became about a mother remembering her son. Remembering the last time she spoke to him. Remembering what she knew, what she didn't know, and what she has had to live with every single day since. According to the person present for this conversation, Tesa revealed something that had never been made public before. Something small in the grand scheme of things, but enormous in the way that only a mother would understand. She said that in the days before Vaughn died, he had been talking about slowing down. About taking a step back from the streets, from the lifestyle, from constantly moving and performing and being everywhere at once. She said he had expressed, not to the world, not in an interview, but privately to her, that he was tired. That he wanted to find a different kind of peace. She said he told her, "Ma, I'm almost there. Just let me get to the point where I know y'all are good, and then I'm gonna fall back." And 3 days later, he was gone. Now imagine being that woman. Imagine holding those words. Imagine knowing that your son, this young man who had survived things that would have broken most people, who had clawed his way out of one of the most violent neighborhoods in America, who had turned pain into art and struggle into success. Imagine knowing he was right there. Right on the edge of something different. And then imagine having to watch while the internet turns his death into content, turns his family's grief into drama, turns his sister's pain into a viral moment. That's what Tesa has been living with. That's the weight behind the silence. And that's why, when she finally broke that silence, the people who heard what she had to say understood immediately that this was not a woman looking for attention or sympathy. This was a mother demanding that her son's story be told with the truth it deserved. But here's what nobody anticipated. Here's the twist that even the people closest to this situation did not see coming. Because while Tesa was having this private conversation, while she was choosing her words carefully, while she was trying to set the record straight in a way that was honest without being destructive, something else was happening simultaneously. The sister had not gone quiet. After the initial posts were deleted, after the family had reached out, after there had been what people described as a very heated and very emotional exchange between family members, the sister resurfaced. Not on the same platform. Not with the same kind of posts. But she came back. And what she said when she came back shifted the entire conversation in a direction that nobody, not Tesa, not the inner circle, not the fans, was prepared for. She said the family secret wasn't just about that night. She said it went back years. Decades, even. She said there were things about Vaughn's life, about decisions made around him, about people in his circle, about the structure of everything he had built, that the public had a right to know. And she said that no matter how many phone calls were made, no matter how many times she was asked to stay quiet, she was done being silent. She said, Vaughn deserved better. And I'm going to make sure people know that. The internet erupted all over again. And Tesa Bennett, who thought she was finally getting ahead of the story, suddenly realized she was about to face something far bigger than a few viral posts. All right, we are in the final stretch now. And I need you to understand something before we go any further. Everything that happened before this, the posts, the screenshots, the private conversations, the phone calls, all of that was just the setup. What I'm about to tell you right now is the part that nobody saw coming. The part that changed the entire direction of this story. The part that made people who thought they knew everything about King Vaughn's death realize they didn't know anything at all. So let's get into it. When the sister resurfaced, when she came back online after that initial wave of posts had been deleted and the family thought things were starting to calm down, the energy was completely different. The first round of posts felt like emotion. Like grief spilling out in real time. Like someone who had been holding something too heavy for too long and just couldn't carry it anymore. People could understand that even if they didn't agree with airing it publicly. Grief makes people do things they wouldn't normally do. Grief doesn't follow rules. But this second wave? This was different. This was calculated. This was someone who had clearly taken time to think about what they wanted to say and how they wanted to say it. And that scared people close to the family more than the first round ever did. Because raw emotion you can manage. You can reach out, you can have a conversation, you can appeal to someone's love for their family and ask them to step back. But when someone has made a deliberate, thought-out decision to speak, when they've crossed the line from venting to revealing, that's a different situation entirely. And according to sources, the specific things the sister began alluding to in this second wave went beyond the night of November 6th. She started talking about patterns. About things that had been happening around Vaughn for years that she felt contributed to putting him in dangerous situations. She talked about the people Vaughn trusted most, not just in his personal life, but in his professional life. The people who were managing his image, his money, his movements. She made it very clear that in her opinion, Vaughn had been surrounded by individuals who prioritized certain things over his actual safety and well-being. Now without naming specific names, because at this point she was being careful enough not to go fully explicit, the implication was clear enough that people in the comments started connecting dots immediately. Fans who had followed Vaughn's career closely, who knew the timelines, who knew who was around him and when, they started piecing things together in real time. The comment sections became investigation boards. People were pulling up old interviews, old Instagram lives, old footage from that night. Everyone was trying to figure out who exactly she was talking about. And then she said something that stopped everything. She said that on the night Vaughn died, there was a conversation that happened before he left for Monaco. A conversation between Vaughn and someone in his circle, someone she did not name but described in enough detail that people who were close to the situation would know exactly who she meant. She said that in that conversation, concerns were raised. Not just casual be safe energy, actual specific concerns about that night, about that location, about the fact that certain people were going to be there. She said Vaughn was told. She said he was warned. And she said the people around him, the people whose job it was to make sure he moved smart, did not do enough to make that warning stick. Now let me be clear about something. We cannot verify this. We cannot sit here and tell you this is documented fact. What we can tell you is that this is what she alleged. This is what she put out into the world. And whether it's completely true, partially true, or the perspective of someone who is grieving and angry and looking for someone to blame, which would be completely human and completely understandable, the effect it had on the internet was seismic. Because if there's even a chance, even the smallest possibility, that Vaughn's death could have been prevented by someone making a different decision that night, that is not something his fans were going to just scroll past. That is not something they were going to watch and forget. That opened up a wound that had never fully closed and poured salt directly into it. Tesa Bennett found out about the second wave of posts the same way most people did. Through her phone. Through people sending her screenshots, sending her links, sending her voice notes asking if she'd seen it, asking what was going on, asking how she was doing. And according to people who were with her when she found out, people who saw her reaction in real time, what happened next was one of the most heartbreaking things they had ever witnessed. She didn't yell. She didn't make phone calls. She didn't immediately go into crisis mode, trying to figure out how to shut it down. She just sat there, with the phone in her hand. And she cried. Not the kind of crying that comes from anger. Not the kind of crying that comes from frustration or embarrassment. The kind of crying that comes from a place so deep inside a person that it has no words attached to it. The kind of crying that says everything has already been said and done and broken, and there are no more defenses left to put up. She had lost her son. She had watched his killer walk free. She had tried to hold her family together through the kind of grief that destroys people. And now she was watching that same family, the people she had sacrificed everything for, tear themselves apart in public. Over his name. Over his memory. Over a night that had already taken everything from her. The people with her said nobody spoke for a long time. There was nothing to say. There are moments in life where words simply don't exist for what a person is feeling. And this was one of those moments. Eventually, Tesa did speak. And what she said, the actual message she wanted to put out into the world regarding everything that had happened, was not what people expected. It wasn't a denial. It wasn't a defense. It wasn't an attack on her daughter or a dismissal of everything that had been said. She said this. And I want you to really hear this. She said, "My son lived in a world that didn't give him many choices. He made the best choices he could with what he had. And he loved his family more than anything. Whatever is being said right now, whatever people think they know, I just want them to remember that. He loved us. And we loved him. Everything else is pain trying to find somewhere to go. Everything else is pain trying to find somewhere to go." That sentence hit different. That sentence circulated almost as fast as the original posts. Because in one line, Tesa managed to do something that very few people are able to do in the middle of a public storm. She humanized it. She brought it back to what it actually was underneath all the drama and the speculation and the theories and the viral moments. It was a family, broken by loss, trying to survive in a world that had taken their person and then kept demanding things from them even after he was gone. Now here's where things currently stand. The sister has gone quiet again, at least for now. The posts are down. The screenshots still exist because the internet never fully forgets anything. The theories are still circulating. The comment sections are still active. And the questions that got raised, about that night, about the people around Vaughn, about decisions that were made, those questions are not going anywhere. Tesa has not made any further public statements. The people close to her say she is focused on her family, on keeping what's left of her family's foundation from crumbling further, on protecting Vaughn's legacy in the ways that she actually has control over, which in the face of the internet and social media and viral moments and 24-hour news cycles, feels like very little. And Lul Tim, the man charged with killing King Vaughn, continues to live his life free, while a family in Chicago continues to carry a weight that will never fully lift. There is no clean ending to this story. There is no resolution that makes it okay. There is only the truth, messy and complicated and painful as it is, and the ongoing question of what we owe to the people we lose and the families they leave behind. King Vaughn deserved better. His mother deserved better. His family deserved better. And the least we can do, the absolute least, is make sure we remember that behind every viral moment, every screenshot, every comment section explosion, there are real people, living with real loss. Every single day. Alright y'all. That is the full story. And I know, that was a lot to take in. Because this wasn't just drama for the sake of drama. This was real. This was raw. This was a family being pushed to their absolute limit in the most public way possible, while trying to grieve one of the most important people in their lives. And now I want to hear from you. Because this community, this comment section right here, is one of the most real, most honest places on the internet when it comes to conversations about hip-hop, about loyalty, about what it means to really hold somebody down. So drop down below and tell me, do you think the sister was wrong for posting what she posted? Or do you think she had a right to speak her truth, no matter how it affected the family publicly? There is no wrong answer here. I want your real, unfiltered opinion. And if you think there are people in Vaughn's circle who have never been held accountable for what happened that night, drop a comment. Let's talk about it. Because this conversation is bigger than one video, and I want to know where y'all stand. If this video hit different, if it made you feel something, if it made you think about something you hadn't thought about before, hit that like button. Not for the algorithm. For Vaughn. Because every time this video gets shared, every time it reaches a new person, that's another person who gets to know his story the right way, with the full weight it deserves. Subscribe if you're not already part of this community. We cover these stories with the depth and the respect that the people involved actually deserve. No cap, no clickbait, just real conversation about real situations. Share this with somebody who needs to see it. And as always, rest easy Vaughn. Parkway Gardens forever.